A lot of times when we do synchronization projects, people get a little bit freaked out about the ones that are not in heat. We were at Chad's earlier today, and you probably had about 70% that had red patches. I think there were just 2 of them that I didn't think were ready. All right, and say, well, how come the patch was gray? Well, perhaps they haven't quite got there yet. But also remember, estrus is a behavior, and anything that changes behavior, like maybe a big rainstorm with lightning and wind and whatnot, or a big snowstorm, or being in confinement, or something like that. Okay, any of that can change behavior and can change the expression of estrus. And so I'm pretty confident we did very well at Chad's today, and I'm confident we're going to do well here. When we get up near the heifers, we'll look at some of the activity, how they're milling around, and how different that was than last week when we were out here getting ready to put the cedars in. First thing, obviously, you got to do to AI is you got to get the cattle in heat. Okay, we got that done. Then we have to have pretty good facilities. We got that done. Dr. Lim Cooler and Reed and Daniel got all that set up, and we're ready to go with facilities. So after we've got that and got everything ready to go, we need the rest of this equipment. I just want to go over what's necessary to get cattle AI'd. Number one, I'm assuming here that you're doing it yourself. It takes about 100 head of to breed before you kind of figure out what you're doing, for the most part. If you look at the science that's been done, it takes about 100 heads. So if you got 5 cows, okay, it might take you a minute. Okay, I have trained people that the first cow that they went in, they successfully bred, and they've successfully bred ever since then. So that 100 is again on that bell-shaped curve of life, and you may be over on the right-hand side of that bell-shaped curve and be able to get it on the very first one. If you want to learn how to AI, we have AI schools that we sponsor at UK. We do one in the fall and one in the spring, and I'm probably going to have to bump that up because I've had quite a few calls, emails, and whatnot. It is fairly expensive for us to keep the cattle around and manage them, so we do charge for that, and that money goes back to the farm to help offset the cost of keeping the cattle and whatnot. But right now it's set for the 2nd week of October. If you're interested in the AI school, it's AI and preg check. It's 3/4 of a day, 2 days in a row. So we start usually at 10 a.m. We'll finish at 4. That gives people time to get there. We do a little bit of class work, and the rest of the time you're in cows. I've had really good feedback on it from everybody that's participated. And again, we will probably pick up one more in that December range, maybe November, December range at some point. But right now we're just running the 2. And if you want to get in the AI school, just get a hold of me or Tyler Purvis. If you learn and if you're gonna AI yourself, you're gonna need some equipment. Semen tanks, fairly important. Okay. If you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire a professional. Select Sires does a great job. ABS does a great job. Dave McLaughlin up in the Maysville area. Jason Crow down here with Gen X. He's over in Irvin, I think. And he does a really good job too. And there's several other people. If you're not going to have them in, you're going to need a semen tank. There's some terminology. These big things right here, that's a canister. And then within each canister, you've got a cane. Now, this is all good semen, so I'm not going to pull it out and show it to you. And within each cane, you got 2 goblets. They're little plastic things. I'll pull one out as we breed here in a few minutes. And when full, each one of those goblets has 5 straws of semen. Okay? And so if you buy a full cane, you're buying 10. That comes labeled most of the time with the name of the bull on it. Now, it used to be just numbers, and so you may still get the ones with the numbers that you got to backtrack and figure out which number is which and what name goes with which bull. But most of them come with a name on it. Minus 350 degrees, so it's a little bit chilly. So if your hands are soaking wet and you grab it pretty tight, your hands are going to get cold really, really fast. Andy Mills and I were breeding a bunch of cows for a fall breeding project over in Meade County a few years ago, and Andy was doing all the prep, and it was raining, and his hands stayed wet, and he actually lost all the feeling in two of his fingers because his fingertips kept getting frozen. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're handling the canes. A nice light touch, dry hands, and latex gloves work pretty good too. Okay, get the cow captured, get her caught, identify the semen that you want to breed her with, pull it out of the tank, and you're going to put it in a thaw unit. Now, you don't have to have a fancy thaw unit like this one. You can just have a regular thermos cooler, okay? And you want to keep the water around 96 degrees, plus or minus. So if you have a thermos of really, really hot water, then you can always just kind of touch it up a little bit. As long as you got an accurate cooking or dial thermometer. Mercury thermometer will work too. You can't find those too much anymore. But as long as you got an accurate thermometer, you can keep that at 96, and you don't have to have the thermos. Most of the time when I breed, I'm breeding several at a time, and so the automatic thaw unit works pretty handy. You don't have to have one to breed cows. All right, you can pull the straw straight out of the tank. You can put it in the gun. You can clip the end off of it. We'll show you all that when we get over there. And you can breed cows with it. There are lots of places in the country that they do not use the thaw units because there's no electricity around and it's just more equipment to pack. And you only lose about 3 to 4% total AI pregnancies. All right. I kind of like my AI pregnancies. That makes me look better when it's 62 versus 58. And so I'll use the water bath. Okay, you need an AI gun. There are a million different kinds. The kind that I use now is called a combo gun. Okay, and it has a little ledge right here. And so you'll see when we go to breed the heifer, we'll pull this back, put the straw in. We'll take the sheath that I'll pick up here in a minute, and you run it up, and it goes over that ledge, and that ledge holds it onto the gun. Once I get that done, again, we'll show it to you live when we get out there. I put it where the sun doesn't shine to keep it nice and warm. This is a sheath. There are two types of sheaths that you can normally get. These are blue tipped. They're green tips. If you've got the AI gun that has the O-ring on it, you'll need the green tips. Otherwise, every single other gun uses the blue tips. What the tip does is that helps form the perfect seal between the straw and the sheath. And so the tips are pretty important. There are some, and we ran out, or I would have brought them today. There are some other sheaths that are available from IMV that actually have holes on the side, so that the semen comes out the side, and you gain another 2 to 3% using those sheaths compared to these. But I ran out. Okay. It's as simple as that when you get ready to go. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to waste the straw semen and just kind of go through the entire process of semen handling here. Again, a light touch. You want to keep every straw as low as you can in there. So I'm just pulling the one cane out. These are 1/4 cc straws. So for 56-year-old fingers, those suckers are a little tough to get a hold of every now and then. Okay? They'll come in either quarter or half cc. This is a quarter cc. All right, really small straws. Notice that there's writing on it that tells you what the bull is. There's a cotton plug end, and there's a crimped end. Okay, the crimped end is what we're going to cut. Everything, if it's not been jockeyed, it comes out of the goblet just like this. And so when you grab it and you pull it out with the crimped end up. I let it thaw for about 30 seconds. Once I have it thawed, flip it. What I'm trying to do is to get all the semen down to the end of the straw. Okay, you can't hardly see it, but the line is right there. If it's not there, flip it again. I've got it in this paper towel. I'm trying to keep it dry, and I'm trying to keep it from the sun. Water kills sperm. The UV kills sperm. And so I want to keep it covered as much as I can. I clip it off about a 1/4 inch down. I cut straight across. Some people cut at an angle. I don't think there's any difference either way. And I was taught in 1984 to cut straight across. So since 1984, Charles, I've been cutting straight across. I get a couple of them bred that way. All right, slip it in, goes over that ledge. Now I'm ready to breed a cow. I got 20 minutes. From the time I put it in there to the time I dump it in the cow, I got 20 minutes. Normally, like this morning, I mean, you know, we went through Chad's pretty quick. When we were breeding at the mine, we dropped 10 at a time, right? Because we could breed them about once a minute. And we were just banging them through, and if I'm pulling a cane out at a time, I never have the problem of going up and down and up and down and up and down. I just pull it out, throw it in the thaw unit, and go. When we're out at Don's, I go 5 at a time. That's normally what I'll do is I'll go a goblet at a time. Typically, I can get those cows, you know, if you got good working facilities and enough help, you can get that done in 5 or 6 minutes, and then I can pull the next goblet out and go. I'm not a huge fan of if I've got 10 cows to breeding to 10 different bulls, because every time you pull that up, you saw it's not super easy to get those suckers out every now and then. Okay, every time you pull that up, some of those straws are thawing out, and when you drop it back down, then they freeze again and you lose some sperm cells. A couple of tricks on that. Make sure your tank is completely full before you start breeding, because that'll fill every goblet full of nitrogen. And so when you pull it up, even though you get above the frost line, you still got a bunch of nitrogen in those goblets, and that will protect those top straws just a little bit. Okay. Once I get this done, of course, you're going to need a palpation sleeve. You're going to need some lube, and you're going to need a paper towel. Sleeve on, lube in my palm. Rub the lube on the rectum, which is the top hole. Okay. Take your paper towel, wipe the manure off the vulva. Find the cervix. And we're not going to teach you the AI today. We'll talk you through it. Okay, and I'll tell you what I'm doing, but we're not gonna be able to teach you the AI today. Typically in these heifers, the cervix, the target the organ we're looking for is going to be somewhere between the size of my pinky and between the size of my thumb. And actually it feels just about like that. You got skin and some muscle on the outside, and then on the inside, of course on my thumb I got bone, right, and it's hard. For the cervix, instead of bone, it's cartilage. All right, but it'll feel a whole lot like your little finger or your thumb. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to keep the rod tipped up for about the first 2 to 3 inches. The urethra dumps into the vagina about that far in, and there's a little ridge there. We talked about that with the cedars, remember? And then I got to go up over that ridge, and as soon as I get over that ridge, I push that dude as far away from me as I can because I want to straighten out the vaginal wall. So I got the cervix in my hand. I come in, then parallel. The opening to that cervix is going to be like if I had a hole right there. And so what I'm aiming for is to go right in that hole. And then once I get it, I'm going to manipulate the cervix back and forth with my left hand with gentle pressure forward with my right hand, and it'll slip through. And then when you get it all the way through, you'll feel it give. Okay? Now I got a bad finger here, got crushed in 1998 by Charlotte cow, and so I can't really use it much except to kind of feel when I'm through the cervix. That's about all I got out of that rascal. Okay? But you'll feel it give, pull back to the opening of the cervix, dump the semen in. If you're just now learning and you're halfway through the cervix and your arm is getting more, because it requires a little bit of conditioning. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but my left arm is about a third bigger than my right. And my left hand is quite a bit bigger than my right. Okay? It takes a little bit of conditioning to do several. If you get tired and you're halfway through the cervix, let it go. Back in the 50s, they used to actually teach to put it halfway through the cervix. And it's better to go ahead and dump it there than to just keep on, and you got the stress building up in the cow and all that stuff. It's better to just go ahead and let it go because you're really just losing a few % by going on the rest of the way. Questions?
How long does that semen last? Lifespan once you insert it?
Okay, great question. Question was, how long is that semen going to last once you put it in the cow? And that varies by the bull. Okay, some bulls it'll last 2 days. Some bulls it lasts 6 or 8 hours. Okay, the first thing you need to ask when you're buying semen to breed your cows is what's the fertility of the semen, because every one of these companies will know. And if you're breeding off of observed estrus, it's all pretty close to the same. It's not all the same, but it's all pretty close to the same. What you want to do is you want to find semen that has really high fertility and fixed timed insemination protocols, because that means even when you're breeding off estrus, it's going to be a little bit better. Okay, but some of it will last as long as 48 hours. We just wrapped up an experiment with a guy in northern Kentucky. He has 200 cows, total AI. He does all the AI himself. We had conventional from 2 different companies. We had sex-sorted semen. We had multiple bulls over about a 5-year period. We had 1,700 inseminations in this trial. And basically what I told him is anywhere from the moment you see them in heat to up to 24 hours later, breed them and just kind of make it where it's convenient for you. Don't, and spread them out. And by golly, from hour 0 up to hour 24, conception rates were basically the same. Okay, so today we catch them in heat. Even if those rascals were going to be in heat tonight at 8 o'clock, we still got a really good shot of picking them up. Okay, and we used to kind of poo-poo the dairy guys and their once-a-day breeding. It's probably right. You can probably get along with once a day inseminations in beef cows. The sex sorted semen runs 8 to 9% lower conception rate than conventionally stored semen, and there is some variability across companies. Okay, so make sure that each company will have really high performing semen. So I don't want you to think that that's not the case. You just gotta make sure that you ask the questions before you buy the semen. Okay.
So if the goal is on a group of commercial cows to get them bred early, after you AI, when should you turn the bull?
So I use after AI, I usually wait 7 to 10 days and turn the bulls in. And that's really a convenience factor. You can wait as long as 2 weeks, but I wouldn't go any later than 2 weeks because we've got some cattle at short cycle, not a very high population, but some cattle will short cycle, and we want the bull to be in there for that to occur. You can do double AI, and if you really read that economics of AI stuff pretty closely, if you got a small herd, it's actually cheaper for you to AI, particularly if you're AI on yourself.
Now, if you don't use a cleanup bull, can you go ahead and put a patch back on to see if they come back in?
Absolutely. Yep. And if, let's say your conception rate's 60%, you got 10 cows, take you 3 heat cycles to get them all bred. If you get lucky, 2, right? But you know, running up in Bryan County right now, we've got a fixed 2 rounds of fixed time AI. We do back to back, and we ran 93% up there, and those 2 we were running a little over 70% conception. Over the long haul, I've been doing a lot of work with gender sorted semen. Over the long haul, using gender sorted semen, we get 83% in 2 rounds. Okay, and 1 more round would pick up everything. And for the fellow that I work with up there, we time everything. He's got 34 cows, just like Chad had this morning. Takes him 6 total hours. Yeah, no, it's 6 hours a time, so 12 hours total. Because cattle are easy to catch. How long did it take you to get them up this morning?
30 minutes.
30 minutes to get them up. Took us an hour to work them.
Yep.
Right? That's an hour and a half. He did it 3 times. Okay? So 4.5 hours for that 1 round. And we come back and you do the same thing. So you end up with about 10 to 12 hours total. Total work time. And that's for 34 cows, which is bigger than your average herd. So, you know, the labor really that's one of the keys. People just don't want to put the time in. But it pays, and the cost per pregnancies, particularly with smaller herds, much cheaper with AI than with bull. And just to give you an example, I was going over the cost per pregnancies down in E-Town, and for herds less than 15, you're looking at, you know, and if you're buying a quality bull, you're looking at $110 to $140 per pregnancy if you're buying a quality bull. And this one guy, he asked me afterwards. He didn't ask me during the meeting because I think he was a little embarrassed, but he had 7 cows, okay, paid $6,000 for a bull. He said, "What's my cost per pregnancy?" I said, "High." Okay, much cheaper to use a straw semen.
These companies that do it, what do they typically charge to come do that? What do they say? Well, we'll guarantee you 100% with 2 trips, or what do they typically do?
Yeah, so I mean, they won't guarantee you anything, and it kind of depends on how many cattle you got. If you got 20 or 30, and you're buying their semen and using their semen, it's $5 a cow. Okay, if you're using somebody else's semen, some of them won't do it. They'll do it for me, right?
I mean,
if I ask them to.
Contacted somebody and said, "What would you take to come and do this?"
Yeah.
I heard they flat fee per animal.
Yep, they'll give you a flat fee per animal. I've heard some folks charging up to $20, but normally it's in that 10 range. Higher if you're using veterinarians, because their time's a little bit. I mean, they're really busy, right? And so they got to make that time worth the effort. But there are, you know, like Jason Crow over. I mean, that dude, he's a good breeder. Gen X is a really good company. Got great bulls, and I'm sure Jason would cover everybody in this area. You know, some things that we used to do, and this actually we started this on in Anderson County years ago. But if you get a group of people together, you know, and so let's say you got 10 people with 10 cows, they all set them up on the same day. They help each other, and the guy comes in and goes from farm to farm to farm, and they charge $5 a pop. and you get the semen cheaper. Because we could get the semen and the service for less than $20 when we were using that program back then. Now we had, I think, 25 or 6 people in that program and 700 or 800 cows. But they would come in and they'd bang them all out in a day or two, and everybody just kind of helped everybody get the cattle worked and organized, and it was kind of neighbor helping neighbor like back in the day. And it was better for the semen guys because they were able to concentrate and schedule those 2 days, and they know they're going to be in Anderson County or they're going to be in Breathitt County or Jackson County or whatever. I'm going to be there on May 15th. And they just go farm to farm to farm to farm to farm. And that's really good for them, and that's actually better for you guys.
I imagine one working could be, you could say, at the same time you could actually be doing vaccinations and tagging and stuff. Is that possible?
Well, you can tag, but I don't want you to vaccinate. Don't want you to deworm. Okay, both of those things impact conception rate, and our goal is to get as many cattle pregnant as possible as early as possible. And so the tags, don't have any problem with doing the tags, but I would rather you separate the vaccination and the deworming from AI.
And I know there's some guys, or a guy from Select Sires that I know well that has done just exactly what you described in this part of the country. I don't know, if it's a common thing anymore, but used to, he would get groups of 8 and 10 farms together and, spend one night, 2 days back to back, knock them all out.
Yeah, we had the Mag 60 program years ago. Jeff, were you here when we ran that? I can't remember how long ago it's been, but he's been here forever, so it had been just about forever ago. But anyhow, we would actually put tanks in county offices. I mean, you might still have one of my tanks.
I think I do.
Yeah.
The guy from Flex Sire ran into him on a farm visit one day. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Kind of a heavy set guy. He's still working.
Yeah.
Wow, that's every one of them. I hope you're watching, Kenley and Kevin.
That's what I was talking about.
I hope you're watching. They're both bi-rated. Kevin Armstrong actually is in his 40th year. What I call KBA, but they've had like 10 different names since then. But I mean, and it would all work great through county offices. Just gather a few. We used to do it, I think, up in Floyd County too. Not Floyd, Carter County with Myron. I think he had 5, 6, 7 people that we would run over and get some stuff. But anyway, it's an option. If folks in a county are interested, it's easy to get that stuff set up. And I would really recommend you use the professionals because it's the way to easily get done what you want to get done, and that's to get cows bred. Anything else?
So, Dr. Anderson, like the breeding today, when do we determine which ones aren't bred here?
Okay. So we'll determine it 2 ways. Dr. Lemcooler is setting up the cow manager coordinator, and that will, they've all but 2 of them, I think, have a cow manager tag in them, and he's linking those 2 tags up now. We'll get those in. So the return heats, it'll tell us when they're in heat, and I got my phone here. I'll show you guys what it looks like, because so this is the app that goes with Cow Manager. All right, and this morning when I got up, I had 2 alerts on the heifers that I've got on a project at UK, and so then I punch one of them, okay? And so this red bar is their normal activity. They move, they don't. I mean, cattle don't do much normally, right? They graze, they lay around and ruminate to get a drink. These cattle are all on grass. They don't have anything else to do. This blue line tells you when they're in heat, okay? And there's 2 heifers there came in heat this morning. They've, first thing, and so if we were breeding them, we'd run them in somewhere 4, 5, 6 o'clock this evening and get them bred, okay? That will tell us, number 1, which ones didn't conceive, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing, I'll probably come up and stick another straw in them. Okay. But then also we'll use the preg check on June 10th. On the 10th, that'll be about 30 days. And we'll use the shoot side preg test to determine that. Particularly in this confinement situation, this thing is going to be phenomenal. Okay, it will tell us extremely accurately exactly when they were in heat. They'd be going right now if we'd had the equipment in and going. But this is what we're going to use to determine our success. And so I don't know if y'all can see, but the arrows there are pointed down. Okay, so their activity is going down. See the arrow kind of pointed down? So they're coming out of heat according to this. And they were in heat 11 and 7 hours.
Just the two of them that you had.
Well, this is on a different project.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Just the two of them that you're testing.
Yep.
Project down there.
So if I was in Lexington right now, we'd go ahead and get them in and breed them here in the next 2 or 3 hours because they were in heat 11 hours and 7 hours ago.
What's determined in that app? What is it using to determine? Is it just behavior-based, activity-based?
Yeah, it's got a pedometer in it. And so cattle walk 10 to 15 times more,
right,
you know, when they're in heat than when they're not. And then, you know, also, so those red lines going up and down, that's just the cattle's normal daily fluctuations in activity. Okay? That great big peak there, that's more activity than normal. And actually it looks like it went from 20, their normal was, let's say 20 minutes of high activity, and right now they're running 35 minutes of high activity. Okay? And the rumination, so the amount of time that they're chewing their cud has gone down. It dropped significantly there, and so it uses the rumination, it uses the peak activity, the pedometer, and it
on the left, is that time wise?
Yeah. And then the blue line is over here, and that.
Okay, so that's
what the blue line, the dark blue line tells you is what the computer uses the activity patterns for rumination, high activity, and the change in that to create the blue line, which tells you that they're in heat.
Compare that to, you know, what you know about where they are. If you attempted to breed them 12 days ago, okay, they're short cycling. This makes sense, or you know.
Yeah, you know, when we first got this system in 2018, you know, we had to kind of validate it, and we were seeing a lot of short cycles back then, and we just realized this summer that it was our vaccination protocol that was stimulating those short cycles.
Were they actually cycling, or was it just?
No, they were really. I mean, no, so we'd sync them just like we did today.
Right.
They'd be in heat. Patches red, visibly in heat. Cow manager says they're in heat. Up to 40% of them as early as 4 days later, and up to 14 days later, had another heat.
Yeah.
The cow manager alerted us on, and we're like, well, that's dumb.
It alerted you with the ear tag.
Yeah, it alerted us with the ear tag, and then we went out and watched, and sure enough, they were in heat again.
Okay.
You know? And so, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't have a clue. I mean, Jeff and I were sitting in a seminar, and the guy, the scientist that was reporting on it said, yeah, and you have up to 40% abnormal cycles. And it's like ding, 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 because I've been wondering what in the world.
Back from a modified live, and that period of time, they're kind of coming back out of it, feeling better. They'll cycle.
Yep. And so, so that kind of, and this year we had 0 short cycles in our heifers. So I'm pretty confident it was the vaccination protocol on that. Now that's observations, not controlled data. You know, but yeah, 5 years one way, and even though it's just 1 year this way, I mean, it's a pretty good start towards actually understanding what's going on. All right, well, with all that, I think we'll move over and we'll go breed those heifers. Won't take a few minutes. I'll describe it all as I go through. Semen. It's calving ease. It's the perfect three-way cross with these Angus and Baldy heifers. And so I know the bull that we've got going here, and he is extremely high fertility. No, GNRH to the gray pasture. So this is what a goblet looks like on those quarter cc straws. And again, I'm just lightly holding that because it's kind of chilly. As long as you lightly hold it, it's not a big deal. 5 straws fit down in there. And I would recommend you use some forceps or something. I've got several pair, but I don't use them just because I'm obstinate about that kind of stuff. But it's easier to get a hold of them rascals. They're pretty little, you know. So I put the semen in there. After 30 seconds, pull it out, flip it, cover it. Chad can attest that all the semen's down there. Cut it off. Put the straw in the gun. I continue to keep it covered. Put the sheath over the top of it and keep it warm. Okay, I prefer here because now I got my hands. It's not sticking out. I know people have put it down there, and you know, the last thing you need is to be bigger than what you already are, right? It just makes everything harder. Then I get a sleeve. I always use my left hand because I was taught to do it with my left hand. And when you're preg checking, going in with the left hand is much easier than the right. But when you're AI, I would think it'd be the other way, just to be honest about it. I got it. Okay, so lube in my palm, put lube on the rectum, go in, push the tail on this side, wipe the manure off the vulva. I'm going to be tipped up for the first 2 or 3 inches. Then I'm going to grab the cervix. I'm going to push it away from me. Okay, and what that does, that straightens out the vaginal wall. I'm at the cervix. I got gentle pressure forward here. In my mind, I'm imagining the hole is in the middle of that cervix. And I'm in. I'm halfway through. I'm 3/4 of the way through. One more little bend here. And I'm all the way through. Okay? Then I dump the semen. And that's that. Okay? It is harder than it looks. Okay? It's harder than it looks. All right? But it's also not hard. I mean, I
you do 20,000 now.
Okay. Again, the data suggests that it takes about 100 inseminations before you're totally comfortable and your technique is perfected, and that's as good as you get. But I do have people that have been able to get it done much quicker than that.
No, really,
okay.
Other side of it.
What I do when I grab the cervix, and this, I'm going to use this as the cervix, I usually grab this end of it. It's not that big, right? That one felt just like my thumb. I grab the end of it, I push it away, and the hole is normally right in the middle. And so I've just developed the ability to go halfway between my thumb and my finger, okay? And then I just wiggle it a little bit, and normally it'll fall in, and then you just keep wiggling it with pressure forward, and it will go through. Okay, most of the time. Occasionally in those guys, they'll grab it, they'll take their thumb, they'll find the hole of the thumb, then put the gun where the thumb is, then move their thumb and the gun goes in the hole. I'm not really hard, personally. But I've always done it the other way. So, I mean, that's like everything else. If you've always done it one way, you know, doing it a different way.
Heifers or cows too?
I would rather breed 1,000 cows than 100 heifers.
Really?
But that's just me. I know a lot of people that really like that would rather breed heifers than cows. But I personally I hate heifers.
What's your reason?
Well, the main reason is they bounce all over the place. Just, and there's not enough space for me. I like space. So like cows, normally I can breed a cow in, 20 seconds. Heifers, probably 40 seconds or whatever that was. But, it's just, to me, it's just harder. It's harder on my body. Now, I would normally pull the entire thing out at once, but since we're going slower today, I'm just going to pull one straw at a time. Okay? 30 seconds. This heifer at the Baldy. Yeah. So she doesn't have any signs here of being ridden. She was definitely active as far as hanging around the heifers that were in heat. So she's more than likely going to be in heat by the end of the day. Activity will probably go down until 8, 9 o'clock tonight. And then, if we let her go, she would be in heat. Since we're time breeding her and she's got a gray patch, we'll give her GnRH. Remember, the GnRH stimulates the follicle that we've grown to burst and release the egg so that we get sperm and egg in the tract at the same time. All that signal has already been done in the red patched heifer. As soon as she's in heat, her brain has already released the same hormone we're giving this one to make the follicle burst and release the egg. So if they've been in heat, the shot doesn't do you any good at all. Okay, and people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. But that's the biology of the situation. This heifer is vital. Okay, for us to get her pregnant, we need to give that GnRH shot. So again, grab the straw, flip it, dry it, clip it, put it in the gun. I always try to keep it wrapped. I know other people don't do it that way, but this is the way I do it. I don't know. There's probably not a real right or wrong to it. I know people that load the gun and then put the straw semen in the gun, and then put the sheath on it. I've seen people put the straw in the sheath and then put it all in the gun.
And leave that on.
Yeah. But this is just the way I've always done it. It's the way I'm always going to do it.
Talk to them about dosage differences, normal ejaculate versus how many.
Oh, no, I did not. Okay, so again, wipe the vulva. Keep it angled up for the first 2 or 3 inches. And she's getting ready to evacuate here. Okay, I'm going to let her because she's tight with all the manure in there. She's tight on my hand. Now I grab the cervix. It's usually sitting at the bottom of the pelvis. See, she's kicking a bunch of mucus. I'm at it. Okay, just aim. I'm not digging on the gun. I'm just moving this, and then there you probably saw it slip. Okay, it's through. I got to make sure that I'm not all the way up the right horn. Okay. Dump semen.
So kicking mucus, but she's got gray. What does that mean?
She's getting ready to come in heat. And so the activity that we saw here was indicative of that. She was hanging around the girls that had the red patches, but she wasn't letting anybody ride her. But she's really, really close.
Well,
where she was in the complete cycle. Is that cervix, the size of the cervix different?
Yeah, they're and in that one, she was in really. I mean, I don't know why she's not showing heat. Because her cervix was the same size as the last one. It was wide open and slick. Slick. Okay, so she's really, really, really close.
So that 4 day there.
Yeah. Or she's just not gonna let another heifer ride her. One or the other.
That's still good to me.
Yeah.
That's still good. That there was